Last year, Aaron Rodgers came under fire for not attacking the middle of the field. Well, what if I told you he hasn't in years? Statistically, the middle of the field is the most productive area of the field to attack. It's where the biggest plays happen. And while researching for this video, I was shocked to find that Rodgers almost never throws there. Quarterbacks who ignore any area of the field don't stay in the league for long. But Rodgers has had one of the most productive stretches of his career, fell off a bit last year. All of it happened while ignoring the middle. Today we'll dive into why he doesn't throw there, how he gets away with not throwing there, and what to expect from him moving forward with the Jets. We'll start with, you guessed it, his target heat maps from his last 3 seasons, where the red area represents where he targets more than league average, the blue less than league average, and the white is at league average. He barely has targeted the middle in any of the last 3 seasons, but after back-to-back MVPs, then comes a little struggle, and now is when he starts getting criticized. If you want to know the answer as to why he doesn't, it's simple. The primary reason is to avoid turning the ball over. Yes, the middle of the field is the easiest place for quarterbacks to complete passes, since it's a closer throw than it is outside. But it's also where it's easiest for defenders to intercept passes, since there are more bodies, like the linebackers, the safeties, there's just more traffic in general. Because his arm is so freaking strong, he doesn't have to worry about distance of throw. He can complete any pass deep outside to the sidelines just as easily as he can throwing over the middle. This limits the possibility of him getting a tipped pass or a surprise zone dropper jumping out of nowhere, and keeps the risk on all of his passes low. A huge part of his game is about not turning the ball over, and the rest of his game is about efficiency. If you're gonna play conservative, you need to be crazy efficient. Well, according to Warren Sharp, last year 35% of his passes came at or behind the line of scrimmage, and according to PFF, 15.5% of his passes traveled 20+ yards. That means literally 1 of every 2 passes are either 0 air yards or more than 20. Rodgers lives on screens, RPOs, and lots of go balls. Why go balls? Because they have a very low likelihood of getting intercepted. He wins underneath with his mind and wins deep outside with his arm. Win underneath 3 or 4 times in a row is efficient as hell, and on the 5th bombs him deep, which brings it all together, while none of it risks interceptions. We'll start by looking into all the run-pass option, RPOs they've run. According to Sports Info Solutions, they do it the second most. And their version, they run differently than other teams to maximize efficiency, and because they have Aaron freaking Rodgers. I call this one the Devontae for how often they ran it with him, where they'd make him, or last year Christian Watson, the 3rd inside receiver in the slot, and if Rodgers liked the look pre-snap, he'd whip it out to him and have his other 2 receivers block. This is kinda like a screen pass because the 2 guys are blocking, but technically it's an RPO, meaning this is a run play first. The offensive line is blocking as if it's a run, so they're not blocking for a pass, but Rodgers knows what he's gonna do and knows he can get it out quick. It's always a numbers game with him where he sees the 3 receivers matched with the 3 defenders. Seeing Watson has a linebacker lined up over him and he is way inside, Rodgers knows that Derek Barnes is out-leveraged and can't get over in time, and they convert the first down easily. This is different than typical RPOs because most QBs read a defender after the snap to see if they should throw it or not, but Rodgers knows whether he's throwing before the play. Easy execution is the name of his game. If there's a 3-on-2 or a 2-on-1, no matter what the play is, he is gonna throw it. When he sees the slot showing inside like he's gonna blitz, once again, this is a run, so the O-line, the back, everybody starts the play like a run, but he just whips it out for 10. Even if it's just a corner playing off coverage, he'll give a little look to the receiver and throw him the ball right off the bat. He is smart enough, accurate enough, and quick enough to make these plays automatic, so this is where a lot of his attempts go instead of over the middle. The other big chunk that we talked about was the 15.5% deep balls, that was 8th most in the league. And as we saw from his heat maps, those almost all go outside. He loves throwing goes more than anything because he can just drop them in there like nobody else, but also because he knows he's getting one-on-ones outside when he does. He won't throw them when he sees a safety shaded over the receiver outside, but other than that, you can't really outright double a vertical outside, which is why he likes them. They're not going to get picked, and they could hit big. With Devontae out there, he could hit you over the top, or if the corner ran too far, he'd go back shoulder. But this year, he just didn't have the talent outside to win nearly as often, which is why we saw limited success both on go balls and by the offense overall. So, if Rodgers is so good, accurate, smart, quick, the whole quarterback thing, why doesn't he attack over the middle like everybody else? Because that's where a lot of his 12 interceptions, or almost interceptions, came this past season. Because there was less talent on the outside, they couldn't win as often on go balls, so he was forced to target all areas of the field, at least just a little bit more. With 2 deep safeties, he knows the linebacker will have to carry Bob Tonyan to help defend the unprotected space in the middle. This is a mofo coverage for everybody who watched last week, so when he sees Tremaine Edmunds back to him, he attacks. Because he's just a hair off on the throw, the ball getting flipped up in the air like this terrifies him. This small misstep leads to 3 other bodies close to the ball almost making a play, and that's just too risky for A-Rod, whose whole game is about efficiency and minimizing risk. If he gets even one whiff of a close call interception over the middle, he won't attack there the entire rest of the game. This is a couple play example where we can see him hit it over the middle, but then gets snake bitten and stops. Defenses love using 4 deep quarters looks in the red zone because it gives them a lot of different options to mix and match and cover a lot of different concepts. It's actually the same concept we saw against the Bills, where Tonyan runs the seam to split the 2 safeties, and Allen Lazard runs a vertical to try and stretch him out to the other side. Rodgers reads where the safeties are going, and even if the linebacker carries Tonyan, just like in that Bills play, he'd have his back turned and Rodgers could squeeze it in there. But fast forward a few weeks later, and now we run the same play against the same coverage, however, the result is different. He gets a little pressure from the interior, which makes him hold the ball an extra second, and maybe because the Packers called the same concept in the same part of the field, Kirby Joseph picked up on the tendency, but whatever it was, he intercepts the pass. Moving forward, that area of the field becomes zona non grata for him throughout the rest of the game, and illustrates at least one reason why his heat map is so blue in the middle. He is not going to push balls into windows unless he's sure he won't turn it over. He's going to live underneath on super high percentage passes and then bomb you outside with pinpoint accuracy where, worst comes to worst, it's going to be incomplete. A lack of a passing game over the middle of the field means a lack of concepts over the middle. So even when they do try and start attacking that area, like they had to this year due to a lack of talent, they don't have a lot of different looks to show the defense. This is a dagger concept, but a little different, where instead of the first receiver clearing out the coverage vertically, he does so more horizontally. Instead of a 1-read concept, this turns into a 2-read concept to give Rodgers a little more flexibility. And if that first guy is covered, usually that opens up the second. But the issue is, the Packers just don't have a lot of concepts that attack this area since Rodgers doesn't want to throw there, and they can get predictable. While charting and studying their film this past week, I was trying to figure out where in their offense had all these over-the-middle concepts gone. What in their offense was missing that made them look different from everybody else? And then it hit me. They don't run any high-low concepts. A high-low is a style of concept that takes one defender and tries to stretch him with 2 different receivers vertically. If he goes high, the QB throws low, or vice versa. This is the bounce concept, a classic 2-high safety zone beater which almost every team in the league runs, where there's a quick dig in behind the linebacker with a little cheese underneath. If he sits back, the quarterback can take the 6-yard gain all day long, and if he bites up to cover what he sees, you zip it in right behind him. When defenses sit in zone coverage, offenses like the Bengals just pick them apart over and over with bounce because the linebacker is always wrong. Literally every team in the league runs it, so why don't the Packers? Because Rodgers doesn't want to rely on the defense to determine where he's throwing. He wants to be in charge. He wants to know he's getting 7 yards if he flips out an RPO. He wants to choose if he's throwing over the top or back shoulder to a receiver outside. If you can cover up everything he's doing, he's not going to squeeze in a throw. He's going to run around and create time so his receivers can't get open. He is a control freak to his core, which is why his interceptions haven't been higher than 8 since 2010 until this past year. Despite those struggles in 2022, he is still just as awesome as he's always been. He just didn't have the talent around him this year to do what he's always done. He still made incredible throws that only he and a few others can, and despite the dip in numbers, I didn't see any real decline in his on-field play. He brought in his guys, Lazard, Randall Cobb, not because they are better than the Jets' current receivers, but because he needs the control to have guys who know exactly where to be on these RPOs or back shoulder go balls, because once again, his game is all about efficiency. The middle of the field has always been the most productive area for quarterbacks across the league, but it's also the most dangerous. Rodgers can find just as much production outside and underneath, so why would he force balls like he was, well, forced to last season? The Packers' lack of skill talent last year demanded he attack all areas of the field, which is why his interceptions went up and his overall stats went down. But now that he has Garrett Wilson, who is his Devontae, Allen Lazard and Corey Davis somewhere at the 2, Mecole to stretch him over the top, deep tight end and running back rooms, NFL defenses are about to be immunized.